Hello and welcome to the Trade and Prosper Academy. My name is Sara Oblak Speicher and I am thrilled to be joining forces with the amazing experts of the Trade and Prosper to help you expand your mind and elevate your business with the series of the next couple of webinars that we'll be doing. Today we'll start with the one that will focus on how to trade fear for expansion in order to prosper in business and life no matter what. As we continue, I will turn off my camera so that we can really focus on the content and spend the next 30 minutes or so together as we dive deeper into this webinar. Why are we here? Let's start with that. So we are here because we're hearing that these are unprecedented times, times of uncertainty, times of fear. We are experiencing and witnessing economic hardship. Our routines have been disrupted. Those of us who are parents have also added responsibilities of homeschooling to our already overflowing plates, right? Not to mention those who are business owners and do have teams, there's added pressure to make sure our team members are okay, to retain them, to retain our clients, to continuously serve our clients, to preserve our revenues, not to mention keep our businesses healthy. Now, when we add to the mix social distancing and isolation, you can only imagine the level of anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD. So how can one continue to trade and prosper under such circumstances? My intention for today is to really dive with you deep into growth strategies, expansion mindset, and practical tools so that you can come away from this presentation knowing how to expand. Here we're talking about emotional, mental, and energetic expansion. The most important factor here, and what really drove me to put this together in the first place, is knowing that makers like yourself, we thrive on creativity. So expansion is really the key to preserving this flow of creativity. Next, we'll be also diving into unleashing the inner strength and self-reliance in order to avoid being like candle in the wind. How to find a source of inspiration, motivation, and commitment to take aligned action, to continuously innovate. How to empower and leverage your team members in case you do have a team. Even when, you might be experiencing the same fears and uncertainty as they do as their leader, right? Not to mention at the end, we'll be diving into realigning business strategies to your bigger vision and hold space for the long-term goals, even if it feels counterintuitive. And I can't wait to dive deeper into that one because it's really something that's stripping many of us. Before we continue, I want to introduce myself in case you and I have never met before. My name is Sara, and I'm a mom to two little ones, a wife to an amazing husband, avid traveler, and currently we are residing in the lower Hudson Valley. However, I grew up in Slovenia in a family of makers and crafters. In fact, my dad, now retired, but for over 20 years, he owned a small bakery, employed a team, and had to innovate multiple times in order to overcome and really thrive in no matter what the hardships and challenges were brought up. My mom has been in business for herself also for over 20 years as a dental technician. And my grandma was a seamstress, and generations back, entrepreneurship really is in my veins. And I really got the first-hand experience and front row seat into seeing how all of that, the growth, evolution, the changes, the innovation, what it really happens and the toll it takes and the opportunities that are brought up. So I am also an entrepreneur myself. How I became one, it's a whole different story for another time. But these days I get to work with amazing, remarkable leaders, founders, CEOs, and their teams worldwide who dare to dream and think and play bigger. One of the things that I really pride myself with is multi-layer approach to creating sustainable success and really simplifying and amplifying everything they put into the world to really, at the end, help them leave a legacy of intentional impact. And I'm really happy to share some of those principles, frameworks, and strategies with you today. We're going to start with expansion and creativity. As this graphics here is saying, right, one of my favorite quotes, that spiritual growth doesn't really happen when you're meditating on a yoga mat. It happens in the midst of a conflict, when we're frustrated, angry, or scared. And, when suddenly realizing that doing the same old thing is going to keep us in the same old place, so we choose to do something differently. And that's when the expansion comes into place. One of the things I would like to invite you to do right now is to actually shift your perception, shift your story, and change your narrative. And here's why. What if I told you that these are not unprecedented times? Times of global pandemic and economic hardship, cultural shifts, political tensions, they have all occurred before. Not to mention some of the biggest companies, if you go and look up General Motors, Disney, Burger King, Microsoft, CNN, Apple, Uber, actually, they all have been created in times like this. Some, as a means of survival, some as innovative market disruptors. Simon Sinek actually speaks extensively on the topic if you want to take a closer look. Another challenge that I'm bringing up right now is to realize that every day is uncertain. It's not times of uncertainty right now. Every day is uncertain because nothing is given. The only thing is that we are simply numbing all those feelings and emotions and are just so focused on going through our daily routines that we don't even notice. Many of us are actually in sheer survival mode. So now that we know that, there's a beautiful thing that we get to do. We get to choose how we respond to our current reality as opposed to continuously reacting to it. And we get to respond by seeing this as a window of limitless opportunities. But we have to be willing to look deeper, to elevate our perspective, to keep exploring, keep innovating, and be agile. So I'm going to ask you to do things. Now, maybe this is something that you've heard before, hundreds of times maybe. Maybe this is something you're hearing for the first time. Either way, we create our own reality. We speak our own reality into existence. We feel it into existence. And here's, therefore, this is the first thing I really want you to be mindful of. Your words, intention, and meaning behind them. What if you chose to speak to your strengths as opposed to weaknesses? What if you chose to speak to your desires instead of constraints? Through our thoughts, through our choices, we get to say what we mean and we get to mean what we say. We get to decide what we want to feel after all. Abraham Hicks, in case you have been a part of those conversations, explains this really eloquently. So I'm going to be borrowing the quote from them. You can keep saying how hard this is, how challenging this is. You also get to choose to focus instead on the benefits of this experience, on the dreams and desires that are forming and coming up as a result. So this is important because we get to choose to prepare for where we want to go, as opposed to reacting based on where we came from. This is a huge difference. And that brings me to the second part of my ask of you today. Where are we going? Where are you going? I'm inviting you to tap into your dreams. The vision that you've been holding, no matter how big, no matter how irrational. The one that fills your stomach with butterflies and makes your heart skip a beat. And in case if you're unsure what that could be, look where your mind goes when it wanders. Now really is the time to intentionally create the future of that deepest and most vibrant desires of yours, and to really create a future of your unique design. to create and experience intentional living, intentional business, intentional relationships, to become intentional leader and create intentional impact. And, in case this sounds very poetic, here's my invitation to you. As we are tapping into that, we are going to be called to elevate and evolve ourselves, to step into the version of ourselves that is able and capable and has the capacity to create all of that. So as we're going through this presentation and as you're having these conversations with yourself later on, with your loved ones, with your team, you're going to be noticing something. You're going to be noticing those little voices coming up in the back of your mind, up to your shoulder, maybe a pit in your stomach that's going to be saying like, who do you think you are? How could you possibly? Don't you remember that one time when? And, all of those reasons, rational, many of them are going to be coming up trying to stop us. Those are fears, self-doubts. I'm inviting you to simply notice them. Don't judge them. Don't try to suppress them, but simply notice them. And I'm inviting you to entertain the thought that those might just be the obstacles, the hooks that are pulling you back, the sandbags that are weighing you down and keeping you stuck if you feel stuck, spinning your wheels if this is how you're describing your current situation. Again, no judgment, just an invitation. So as mentioned, in order to realize this dream of us, we need to unleash our inner strength. So here's how we get to do that. What we think we become, what we feel we attract, and what we imagine we create. Simple, right? Now, the tricky part is with the thinking part, because 5% of our thoughts and behaviors are conscious. They make up a story and decisions of why we make certain things, right? 95% of our brain activity, on the other hand, is the one that influences our decisions, actions, emotions, and behaviors. And those 95% go beyond our conscious awareness. So here's the funny thing. On any given day, there are about 60,000 thoughts that occur to us. Did you know that about 98% of them are pretty much the same as they were an hour ago, a day before, last week, last year? Imagine the weight of those fears, if those are fears that are coming up, the worry, the limiting beliefs, right? It is really crazy to think about the impact that our own thoughts are having on us and our ability to really create the reality that we want to imagine. So why is that we are stuck in this cycle, so to speak? Because the subconscious mind, the 95% of it, it's 30,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. And that's where the mindset work comes in. And our ability to master our mind in order to choose our thoughts, which then, they change into emotions. Emotions shift our beliefs influence our actions develop into habits, and ultimately that creates new results. So with the mindset work, we become more aware of our triggers and can eliminate them too. So they no longer become, we no longer react to things. And like I said earlier, are like candle in the wind. Instead, we choose to respond proactively. So with this new elevated perception, we literally start creating our own reality, no matter the external circumstances. So we're talking about choosing our thoughts. And then there's another thing in this equation, it's the triggers. Emotional triggers actually are a very powerful tool that's being used in marketing and sales every single day. Some of the triggers are belonging, fear, guilt, trust, leadership, values, and instant gratification. Any of those sound familiar? Are you experiencing any of that as a maker, trader, business owner, creator? Do you find yourself worrying about money? Fearing about your well-being? Feeling guilty for snapping at your kids these days? Or really being short-tempered with your loved ones? Yeah, you're not alone. But here's the beautiful thing about it. we get to explore. As we notice that we get triggered, we get to explore what is it that triggered us. We get to explore what led up to that moment, just a step before we snapped, right? Because triggers are never about the present moment, but about something from the past that we created our story around. The stories, the program that have been passed down to us, from generations before us, the culture around us. So the triggers made us feel something similar before, and they take away our power. They take our power away, and that's how we become victims of external environment. So in order to create the reality of our own choosing, let's take this a step further. We are creating not only what we're thinking, but what we're feeling. And Dr. Joe Dispenza is expert on the matter, so I invite you to really look this up. Ultimately, what I am conveying and sharing with you here and inviting you to consider and be with and examine and explore is the fact that when we do encounter and we do feel those negative emotions, let's try not to shut them down. Let's try not to judge them. Let's try not to ignore them. Can we just transmit them instead? Can we just allow them to be? Can we express them, feel them, and give them a voice? Because here's the thing, when we let those emotions consume us, we don't transmit them. We transform and transmute them. So again, just like we're choosing our thoughts, ultimately we get to choose our feelings. And this is the important part of this equation. This is why I'm inviting you to be mindful of that. Our emotions have a vibration, and our vibration is 500 times stronger than the mind and the thought. And our vibration determines what becomes available to us, what manifests in our physical 3D reality. So again, I am inviting you to choose wisely. Be mindful of it and choose wisely. This is the first step in unleashing that inner strength and self-reliance so that you can prosper in current and any reality, no matter what. Let's talk about inspiration, motivation, and aligned action right now. One of the sources, actually, what I wanted to do right now is to kind of picture two poles, if you will, two columns, two boxes, if you will. One is external components and one is going to be internal. So here's what I mean by that. We are taught and conditioned and trained and indoctrinated into believing that we are our results. We are taught to follow external goals, external expectations that somebody else has set up for us, standards, rules, and so on. You might be hearing some noises from the other side because just like everybody else, I'm working from home. And like I said, I have two little ones who are very energized and very excited. That being said, external stuff, right? We get to choose how we respond to it. So the external goals are beautiful. And those of us who are high achievers, we thrive on not just meeting, but exceeding those external goals. So in our current reality right now, we are struggling a little bit because things are seemingly out of our control. And the time that we would invest into creating something, the attention we would be able to give it, and the old tried and tested approaches to create those results are all being compromised right now. Not to mention the weight of the pressure that we're putting on ourselves in order to meet and exceed our goals. It's ridiculously high. So all of that gets us going, but it has a downturn. When we are focusing solely on the external motivation, we are running the risk of burning out. I have personally been there twice. Once was not enough to get the warning to learn the lesson. It was brutal. It took a lot of time for me to recover. So I don't wish that on anybody. And with added responsibilities and pressure, this is really the fast track to a burnout. And not just a burnout, resentment, ultimately risking the fact that you just might want to quit, right? So, what is the antidote to it, so to speak? It's really finding the inner light, turning into a flame, letting this flame fuel you, right? And that comes from spirituality, faith, your why. That is your inspiration. That comes from within. So when we tap into our inner higher source, for some of you, this might be God. For some of you, this might be the universe. For some of you, this might be you yourself. You are the source. However you name it, it comes from within. So even when we feel angry, frustrated, sad, we get to transform that into a source of inspiration. Like I said, the flame has been burning gently, but then something changes suddenly, and now it's full-blown flame, and now you feel it, and there you go, you become unstoppable. So what is the glue that brings them both together and makes it sustainable? It's called commitment to aligned action. And this commitment to aligned action is the thing that now transforms the ideas. It transforms your vision. It transforms your plans and strategies into actual results, because now you have the motivation and now you have the stamina to see it through, to take the aligned action. And with knowing that, with mastering that, with making that available to yourself, you really become unstoppable. And again, no matter the circumstances, you know where you're going and you know you're going to get there. More on that, actually, we'll be discussing in our next webinar, but I want to honor your time, so let's keep moving forward. The next slide, the next part of this conversation is going to be about empowering and leveraging your team members. So here's what I want you to hear. In case you might be hearing and thinking, well, I don't have any employees, I'm inviting you to see things from a little bit different perspective. What if you saw your team as people who currently are around you, not just the employees, but also the members of your family, the members of your community, your friends? I'm inviting you right now to take a refreshed look into those people around you, family, friends, colleagues, employees. I invite you to think about ways to empower them so that you continue working on your own mindset and that they can support you in that. Right now, getting off the tangent a little bit, in addition to the experiencing all the emotions that the current situation is bringing up, a lot of us are now also facing the disappointments by our family and friends of how they reacted or did not react, of how available or unavailable they have been, of how, some relationships have been changed forever, some have ended forever. And it is a real issue that we cannot ignore. It's a fact that we cannot ignore, but we need to honor it. The beautiful thing about being a leader is that, and being an intentional leader, creating this intentional life for yourself and building intentional business, you get to be intentional about who you bring and keep in your own circles. Right now, in order for you to thrive and make this impact, not just survive, but really make impact, this is the crucial time for you to start being intentional with those relationships, with those conversations. Right now, you get to set the boundaries and you get to be really picky and choosy about what is that you're tolerating and what is that you're not available to anymore. It might sound harsh, but it's the only way for you to be continuously able to grow, evolve, lead, create, make, sell, serve, thrive, make an impact. And not just for yourself, but for your team, for your business, for your family. So getting a little bit out of attention here. The other side of this conversation that I also want to have with you, and it's going to continue in our third webinar actually, but I wanted to start seeding this idea here, is that this is also the perfect time to start empowering your team and leverage it in a way that might be innovative and different from what you have done before. We are all experiencing and seeing our teams working from home, some of them new to that routine, some of them completely overwhelmed. So I'm inviting you to really approach this from a perspective that you empower your team members. They know what they need. They know what kind of approach they need to take in order to be able to manage it all. It's not all about the productivity and the new technology and stuff like that. Sometimes it's simply allowing them to take a step back, extend the deadlines, be more flexible with the assignments, with the way of how things are being done. And here's a beautiful thing. Have you ever watched the Undercover Boss? You know how often leaders had no idea what was actually happening on the front ends of the businesses and when things are being actually done and created, because spreadsheets don't communicate that. So what I'm inviting you into, in case you do have a team and that does apply to you, have a deeper conversation with them and ask for their insights and their feedback. They have firsthand experience. They are able to brainstorm with you, innovate with you, find better, more suitable solutions. And you might even find that in order to continuously grow and prosper, some rearrangements may need to take place. You might need to change positions within the company when somebody might be a good fit, but they might not be a good fit for the position that they had been hired in the first place. All of that goes back to the first slide when we were talking about these are not unprecedented times, and how companies that have been starting during these times and the ones have been thriving, that's all part of the innovation. So I'm inviting you to really have a deeper look, more wider conversation with your team members and see what is it you get to create together. So last but not least, let's dive into our last part here, into realigning your business strategies. Actually, when I see this, it always makes me smile. So, you know what? This is such a serious topic that I thought when I saw this meme here, you know what? Let's just have some fun. Let's bring some levity to this conversation. So yeah, in short, if it doesn't bring you income, inspiration, and orgasms, does it really belong into your life? So here's what I'm inviting you to do. When I work with my clients, we use a very strategic and systematic approach that is 100% customized to where is that they're going based on where they are. The first thing we look for are gaps, leaks, bottlenecks, and lacks of the alignment in their business model, operations, management, marketing, sales, and so on. Now, I don't know you personally. I don't know what your business is, what your struggles are, what your vision is. So I do invite you to look into your own business model, operations, management, processes, procedures, and so on and so forth. And take an objective look, take a deeper look, and dare to ask yourself difficult questions. The goal here is really simple. Imagine having a bucket. Actually, let's illustrate it that way. We're not only here to fix the bucket so it stops leaking. We're not here to increase the flow into the bucket so whatever is leaking out is being replaced by greater flow, because that isn't sustainable. I'm inviting you to expand the bucket and clear out anything that doesn't belong, because that's ultimately what we need to do in order to thrive and prosper, no matter what the circumstances are. We are really, if you imagine putting pieces together that fit, And when we're talking about business model, here's another thing I want you to hear. I know service-based businesses are different than being a maker, and yet it all starts with choosing the right business model. But when we're looking out right now, a lot of wealth has been created by fear-mongering around innovation and pivoting, and innovation and pivoting. I'm inviting you to take a closer look and a more educated look into what is it that you're creating, and choosing the model that really supports your vision and supports you, the lifestyle that you want to create, the impact that you want to create. And then keep in mind that there are several dozens of different business models out there, and each is compatible with unique monetization. Each needs different approach based on its life cycle. Each requires a specific marketing and sales strategies. Each dictates particular operations and management. Each relies on a team building and development practices based on who is that you're bringing to be a part of your team to begin with. And each requires your unwavering confidence, clarity, and conviction. Like I said, I am grossly generalizing this because I don't know where exactly is that you are right now. But I'm looking around and remembering where, from my parents' experiences and from my clients' experiences, I'm inviting you to look into your overhead first. Look into ways to cut down the redundancies and unnecessary projects. See if you can build an extra buffer in timing for your deliverables, if appropriate. See if you can cut down your to-do lists, projects, or any new launches you might be gearing up for. Anything that's cutting into your budget that is not going to be bringing immediate ROI. The second part of this conversation now becomes about next steps. Now that we have fixed our foundation, now that we have plugged our leaks and gaps, let's talk about being creative, and let's talk about innovation. Let's talk about being daring and asking different questions. So I invite you to put some extra thought into this. See, perhaps it's not even about pivoting. Now that you're taking a different look, when you have elevated perception, maybe all you need to do is reposition yourself, shifting your marketing message a little bit. But we're going to be creating a whole webinar solely on this, and we'll be focusing on how to realign your strategies to a bigger vision and hold space for the long game, even if it feels counterintuitive. How to inspire intentional business to last. How to keep an eye out for the opportunities and how to create those opportunities for yourself. So I do invite you to keep an eye on this space for any updates. In the meantime, I do invite you to also join Trade and Prosper community on Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, feel free to tag me. I'll be happy to further support you, to answer them, to share with you some ideas. Last but not least, I also invite you to look for the second webinar in this series. We'll be exploring how to stop spinning your wheels so that you can take back your power without feeling distracted and exhausted. This is something that a lot of us are experiencing right now. So that's what we're going to be addressing further. Without further ado, thank you again for choosing to be here with us and for making yourself available to choose to create the future of your own design and choose to prosper. Again, my name is Sara Oblak Speicher. If you would like to learn more about your work, you can visit www.makeyourlifeyourlegacy.com. Here's to your success, expansion, and peace of mind.